Hello everybody, this is Gabriel Simek and this is the Pindara Private Hospital expansion. This is the computer model I've done it on Revit. Let's get into it. So after the geotechnical study is carried out for the structure, the survey is then conducted to determine the exact footprint of the slab and the pad footings and the board piers where they're going to go. In conjunction with the footings, the in-ground services will go in at this point as well. So here's the substructure pretty much. You've got your pad footings, your board piers, also your in-ground services. Here are some strip footings as well. Just with your water and electrical services, also your gas and your telecommunications, they go in at this point as well, like I said. But also working in close quarters with the hospital environment requires a lot of planning because the patient safety has to be of utmost priority and also minimize any detriment. Okay, so after the substructure goes on, the concrete columns are then poured in situ and erected first before the slabs go in. So as you can see here on the kitchen level, there's the concrete columns throughout. As you can see, they're highlighted. If I go into one of the floor plans here, you can see here that these squares or concrete columns, they will act as load-bearing structures. So yeah, bear that in mind. So if I go back to the 3D view, after the concrete columns go on, the slab will then be poured for the kitchen level and for the ground floor of the hospital. And for the kitchen level, your interior and exterior walls will go up, and then on top you'll have your roof slab that'll go on. It is imperative at this point that the building envelope, particularly for the kitchen, is as watertight as possible just to mitigate any risk of water egress and also improve. Okay, so at this point, the fire stairwell, along with the interior steel framing, are constructed and fixed in their respective positions. The concrete slab for the next floor is then poured in situ and cast in place on top of the concrete columns that have been erected on the floor before it. The exterior concrete block work is then also carried up to the beginning of the next level, and the sequencing of this stage differs a little bit in terms of the load-bearing elements going first, obviously help hold up the floor, and then the non-load-bearing elements before. If I go into a section here, you'll see that there's a roof cavity here. This roof cavity here will allow services such as air conditioning, gas, fire, water, and all that to be put in place, and it just keeps it neater out of sight. So as I said, on the current floor, where the services will go into the roof cavity, as the structure on top gets built, like the next slab gets put onto the next columns and so on and so forth, on this current floor you've got your insulation that goes in, your plasterboarding, also they'll begin painting, putting in things like the cabinets, basins, bathroom, utilities and all that stuff. So once that goes in, it's basically a repetitive process of building it up to the next level, doing all that I've just said on the next level, and then so on and so forth, because these first three levels are all pretty much the same. So it is just a repetitive process at this point. If I go to the 3D view, you can see on the roof cavity, the roof has a steel frame fixed to these posts that are located here. Okay, so as the structure is nearing completion and the roof starts going on and all that, the elevator shaft is then completed. It is inspected to make sure that it is defect free and that it is suitable for the lift to go in. The lift is then crated in from an offshore supplier, and then it is craned in, and then the cavity here is then sealed off. For the stairwells, for the fire stairs, there's a metal ramp, like a walkway, that goes along the roof here that leads onto these big cooler units that service the ducted air conditioning of the entire hospital. And also this room here also services all the ventilation and all the vents that come up from the structure as well. At this point, the structure is pretty much done. What remains is just to install the doors, the carpet, vinyl, tiles for all the rooms, fix the CFC. Okay, so as I said, the structure at this point is pretty much done. All that's left now is just to do the paperwork, such as the witness testing, building certification documentation, practical completion from the superintendent. Also, defect liability commences now, and yeah, it's pretty much given the green light to be used by the hospital. Anyway, thank you for listening to my presentation.